Welcome to VoN number 8, Annex number 8, shall we say, the sideshow to the main event, which takes place on Wednesday nights at 11 to midnight on the Reality Bites Radio Network.com that's on GMT time, or 6 to 7 Eastern Standard Time, USA. The stuff I can't fit into the main show I can place here as commentaries and musings and rantings and whatever you're having yourself. I want to talk today about this legalization of cannabis. Everybody's very excited. Ooh, and the alternative movement. We won, dude! Dude, we got our shamanic medicine, dude! And suddenly all these people who distrusted governments and hated governments because they took away their marijuana, cannabis, whatever, suddenly are all like, oh, the cops are wonderful, man. They're letting us grow weed and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Are you that fucking thick? Honestly, are you that fucking retarded that you instantly trust the fact that governments, the federal government and federal agents are all over Facebook now extolling the virtues, suddenly and out of the blue with no prior interest in the topic, extolling the virtues of smoking as much fucking weed as you can possibly get into your brain? You really trust them with this? It's happened all over the world at the same time. You'll post videos of politicians making globalization speeches, and you'll go, "Look, dude, look, man, they're all in on it, man. They're all making the same speech in every parliament, man." And yet now, all of a sudden, all over the world, these same filthy, corrupt, psychopathic bastards and the whores and civil servants and federal employees are all over the internet now. They're moles and shills saying, "Isn't it great? We're going cannabis. Everybody smoke it. We're going to legalize cannabis," and all this kind of stuff. Now, look, I don't care if you inject yourself with fucking Visto or Domestos or cleaning fluid. That's your own business. What consenting adults do is their own business. That's your freedom. I have loads of friends who smoke weed, and that's good luck to them. That's their choice. However, governments want you in altered states of consciousness as much as possible, because as long as you're in that altered state of consciousness, you're no longer a danger to them. So they have no problem. Why do you think alcohol is legal? They want as many people pissed on cheap lager as possible, because it'll always be the poor people who are pissed on cheap lager, and they know that they will never be a bother to the government. Likewise, all these middle class people who can't pay their mortgages and are debted up to the hilt, as long as they're on their 2 bottles of wine a night, because they're not drunks, remember, because they're on wine, not cheap lager. They're sophisticates. They've been allowed to believe they're sophisticates. They're all altered states of consciousness, and they're no danger to the government. Likewise, people who don't drink, and there's many people who don't drink who smoke weed, the same thing. If they're stoned every night of the week, then the government loves that, because they'll never be a bother to anyone, ever. Now you can sit there saying, oh, shamanic medicine, it's, weed is so great for you. And there's lots of proof that it is. It's quite amazing how there really is something to the fact that cannabis can cure these, especially, it seems to be in the air. Let's not get carried away. You cannot inject someone with 4th stage cancer and cure them. I've seen no proof of that. But I have seen that early cancers have been taken out by people using cannabis oil. I looked that up, and I gave that some good research recently, and it definitely seems to be true. In fact, there's almost like cannabinoid receptors in the human brain that actually interact with the plant. Now, I find all that stuff interesting, but that's not the same thing as being wasted all the time and smoking it all the time. That's a different thing altogether. And secondly, many of the people who have been cured of the cancer or put into remission in the early days, that can also be done with diet as well. Remember that. People who've never smoked cannabis and have radically changed their diet in the early days of detection, there's been very, very good success at that. So let's not get into this notion that only cannabis can do that. Diet and exercise in the early days, if you can do it, does seem to help a lot. But so does the cannabis oil as well. I'll definitely agree with that. But it's not the same thing as like the fellas who are all, and women who are all going, it cures cannabis, man, cancer, man. They're just using it as an excuse You have all these weed heads who are completely wasted on pot, and they're like Henry Ford's hem car. If they don't get enough of it, they break down, and this is what we're dealing with. So there's two separate issues here. People who are addicts, cannabis addicts, and don't give me this crap. It's not addictive. Get a life. And who are no different than alcoholics and no different than people like that. And then there's other ones who are genuinely caring about the cannabis as a healing thing. They're two different. They're two separate constituencies. And I believe the ones who are just into getting stoned all the time are actually damaging the arguments of the ones who are promoting cannabis oil. Because I tell you, anytime I'm on Facebook and someone mentions a relative with cancer or something, the first thing you get is a bunch of potheads who just love talking about the weed, the only thing in their life that means anything to them. And they put so many people off the idea of the cannabis oil. They put me off for a long time. So let's distinguish that one group from the other, okay? Now let's say the government lost the war on drugs. Well, that's bullshit, because the governments love the war on drugs. The war on drugs was never designed to be won. The war on drugs was designed to increase bureaucracy, to keep as many people employed in governments, the federal government, the civil service, all over the world as much as possible, in everything from law enforcement to office jobs. So governments love the war on drugs, and government employees love the war on drugs because it guarantees them a big fat healthy pension when they retire. So that was never ever designed to be won, ever. It's never been even on a table. That was just designed to create employment opportunities for corporations from day one. Now, speaking of opportunities for corporations, nobody has so far spoken about this legalization of weed and why it might be very much in the interest of the corporations. Firstly, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet. I haven't studied up enough on it yet. Maybe some people can clarify this for me. But it appears likely that Monsanto is very, very interested in growing cannabis and marijuana plants. Very, very interested. Now, we know what happened with all their other products, particularly the GMO maize. The GMO maize cross-pollinated and infected traditional strains of maize and corn around the world with these terminator genes, which are actually now beginning to wipe out ancient strains of maize. Do you think, when you're getting there going, oh man, we won the war on drugs, man, do you really think Monsanto is going to do you a fucking favor? Are you that fucking stoned? Is there that many cannabinoids in your fucking system that you've lost all ability to have any kind of lucid cognitive processing, that you believe that Monsanto and the corporations and their government whores will make a specialist exception for you and your shamanic medicine? You are off your fucking tree if you think that. Continue smoking it, because if you're that stupid, you're no use to nobody. Kill yourself. Rot your brain away, because no one cares. You're so stupid that you actually believe that because they're legalizing cannabis, they're doing you a favor. They're doing no one a favor. The only thing corporations and government do when they get together is to fuck you in the ass. They do nothing else. So don't get carried away with that either. Now, secondly, another thing I want to talk about here. Let's take this on to a huge level of paranoia on my behalf, right? I don't smoke the stuff. Again, I don't care if you do. I don't smoke the stuff. But just say I was hugely paranoid from smoking a load of weed, right? Every person I know people I know who are cool people, everyone who smokes weed, their houses and their kitchens are filled with snacks. They smoke a few joints, and then it's Mars bars, Cadbury's, Ritz crackers, potato chips, buckets of fried chicken. They talk about how cannabis oil cures cancer, and yet as soon as they're finished smoking a joint, the first thing they do is hit all the cancer-causing foods in their fucking larder and in their kitchens, without a hint of irony, because all their sense of irony has been blown out of their fucking heads by being stoned. The munchies, man! I got the munchies. So here, let's say we have a situation now where let's play the game to its completion, right? In Ireland and Britain, and I don't know if it's the same in America, but we have a certain amount of a bad problem with poor people on cheap booze, on cheap lager, right? You see them outside Lidl and Aldi stores and all these discount booze places, and they're all working class, poor, unemployed young people. These are the ones who should be leading the revolution and the change for the future, but instead, what they're doing is they're drinking large amounts of this cheap lager and they're playing PlayStation and Xbox all day. A lot of them smoke weed as well. Now, these people have terrible diets. You go into their houses and there's no food in there. Their children are not properly fed. Their budgets are wherever you get. I always notice this a constant. You have a family where the kids are neglected. You'll find that the parents' main budget is cigarettes and booze, and if it's not booze, it's weed. And the food is always the same. It's not shamanic cancer healing food in the fridge. It's shit in a lot of cases. I'm not broad brushing everyone. I'm talking about a certain type of a demographic, the poor working class people, the ones we need to actually fight for us in the future, are all out of their heads on booze, weed, and drink. Now, the middle class ones are the same with the munchies. Doesn't matter. They may sit online all day talking, reading, and posting articles about these natural cures and all this stuff. But when push comes to shove and the joint is smoke, the Cadbury's, the Hershey's, Nabisco's, General Mills shit is on the table. All the cancer-causing chemicals. That's passed off as foods. So we have a situation now where take it to the limit. When people drink large amounts of cheap shit lager, they fall asleep. They just fall asleep. Where if they smoke large amounts of Monsanto weed, they will start eating huge amounts of snacks and sugar and all this shit produced by these horrible confectionery / salty snacks version of Monsanto. By the way, many of the products in those snacks are actually made by who? Monsanto. So you have the potheads with their shamanic medicine fighting cancer by smoking Monsanto weed and then eating Monsanto snacks. Is through the haze of pot smoke, is reality starting to filter into your fucking heads yet? Now do you understand why suddenly, out of the blue, federal agents who had nothing and no interest at all in your shamanic medicine are suddenly becoming your number one defender? Have you ever thought about that one? Coppers who would have arrested you and beat you up in the cells for having a bag of weed on you, what are they doing now? They're turning a blind eye. Oh, it's not a problem. These people are... I'm not going to say anymore.